few more people to join and then we'll get going. Thank you very much for joining today.
Deepa, can you give me like a 20-second warning? Thank you.
Definitely, no problem. If you're in the attendee room rather than in the panelist room, please remember to send your messages to everybody, not just to panelists, and then everybody can see in the room can see your messages.
Continue. Hello, Deepa.
Hello, Eva. How are you? Nice to see you. We're all live at the moment. We're just waiting for other people to join. So I've just updated your name and we will start in a few minutes.
Yes. So we are 9 persons for Craig.
Yeah, there's about 40. So people are just joining.
Yes. It would be fine for me if I could register quickly because I have an important Zoom meeting later at 5.
I'll take you early on.
Yes. I read why Craig was imprisoned. It's incredible. Huh? But there's a GSAG identification, meaning that he gave some elements that allowed to identify a victim or an author, which is forbidden. Is that the point?
It is about witness identification. Yes, that's supposedly the idea, but in Craig's case, it's something called multi-source. But yes, everybody can hear us just now, so I will catch up with you offline.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Emily, welcome. We're just about to start, everybody, so please bear with us. We're just admitting people slowly into the room.
Deepa?
Yes?
Do we need to remind some panelists to make sure they use the panelist link? I've just texted Tommy and asked him to say that to Mark and Gordon as well, but it's just in case people are using the wrong link.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. And I can see Neil is here. Welcome, Neil. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to rename you, Neil, so that you have. Perfect. Thank you. We're just waiting for a couple more people to join and then we'll get going. Just give us a minute or so. It appears that some of the panelists have been joining via the attendee link. If you're one of those panelists, if you could just raise your hand using the raise hand function, I can move you into the main room. Hi, Ian. I'm just going to rename you if that's okay. We're live, so anything you say can be heard. We should be rolling in in a couple of minutes. Hi, Tommy, welcome. Could the lady on who's just joined, who's in front of the camera, could you let me know what name you'd like me to rename you as in the panelist link, or could you rename yourself, please?
It's Stuart.
Stuart.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, Deb. Welcome.
Thank you.
if you wouldn't mind renaming yourself, if you right click on your name, you should be able to rename yourself. Stuart. I hope I've spelt that right. Thank you very much for joining. We're just waiting for the last few people to get in the room and then we'll get going. Hi, Annie, welcome.
Hello.
I'm just going to rename you so that we have your name correctly listed.
You rename yourself.
You right click on your name and then you can rename yourself. So if you go into the participants tab and right click, or on the screen itself, if you right click, you'll be able to rename yourself. And this should be true for attendees as well as panelists. But those who are attendees, of course, will get a chance to speak in a bit. So, hi, Alex, welcome.
Hello, Deepa, how are you?
Good, thank you. We are live, but I'm just sorting out your name tag, and there we go. So hopefully we're all here. And if it's okay with you, Nadira, shall we start? Okay, great. Oh, we have one other person whom we'll have to rename. I'll leave it to Elsa and Ellen to rename, please. Thank you so much. Firstly, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for Craig's birthday party. Craig is 63 today, and we're so fortunate to have somebody like Craig in our midst because of the humongous contributions he's made to our understanding of public life. Craig is one of those people who's never hesitated to put his head above the parapet to tell us the truth as it really is. And it's because of his ability and his willingness to speak truth to power that he now sits in Saughton Prison. Nadira, his wife, is going to join us to say a few words in a second. But before we go to Nadira, I'm just going to share screen for a second and share a little clip from Craig's from the day that Craig went to prison. So I'm just going to share in a second. Just bear with me 1 second. Hopefully you can all now see the clip.
For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne.
And hopefully now I can stop sharing. As you can see, it's very cottage industry here. We're just trying to get used to the Zoom controls, so do forgive us if we get things wrong as we go along. But I'd like to firstly thank you all for your solidarity with Craig. There have been weeks where he has received hundreds of messages, some months where he's received thousands. And Ellen, Craig's campaign manager, and Nadira, Craig's wife, are going to speak during the course of today to tell you a little bit about what's going on with Craig and any messages from him. We'll also hear from Craig's family, from his daughter, from his sons, and from his sister and brothers. We'll hear from Craig's old friends and people who've worked with him over the years. We'll hear from people who've never met Craig, but whom Craig has inspired. So I hope you'll enjoy this party where we're having some wonderful musical interludes, and we're trying to get everybody back in the room, the musicians. So you will hear that coming in a bit as well. So please grab your glass of champagne or whatever is your preferred narcotic, and let's get going. Over to you, Nadira.
Hello. Thank you very much for organizing this, Deepa, and thank you very much for everybody who's taking part. Well, I have a champagne here, and this is a bit unusual because every year, ever since I've known Craig, we used to celebrate his birthday together. This is the first time we are celebrating his birthday away from each other. I just want to say quickly, even though, Craig, even though you are far from here in Saughton prison, locked in within four walls, you are in my heart and in children's heart and whole family's heart. And we are celebrating with paella today, the massive dish you specifically bought for making paella on your birthday. Shame you couldn't be here, but we are doing exactly how you wanted it to be, with loads of drinks, friends, laughter, and paella. I'm very proud of you, and I've always liked your stubbornness on telling the truth, even it caused you, even it had a heavy price on your shoulder and effect on us. But maybe that's why I stayed with you. You are a wonderful person, but terrible husband, because you lock yourself in your room and you get writing and finding the truth and sharing it with people. And you've always been, outspoken and truth teller, truth sharing person. Maybe that's why your principles and that kind of quality I really liked. Maybe that's why I'm with you. And on behalf of everybody, we've got loads of Spanish guests here and Uzbek guests, children, and we are celebrating your birthday today specifically and cooking paella. So Craig, happy birthday, and thank you very much for everybody who's here.
Thank you, Nadira. Because we have about 40 different people from all over the world dialing in, I'm going to try and go quite quickly. I just want to say, those of you who are listed as attendees, you will get to come in and say something. We will have an open mic, so it's going to be quite democratic in that sense, but we do have some of Craig's oldest and dearest friends, and we'd like to take them early on, if that's okay. I'd like to now invite Tommy Sheridan to come online and speak. Tommy, over to you.
I have to say, Deepa, I'm very, very privileged to be asked so early to speak in such a wonderful occasion. I am probably in the category of one of Craig's newer friends, because I've only really met Craig since 2013. So we've only really been friends for about 8 years or so. I met Craig primarily through Hugh Kerr, whom he has been a friend with a lot longer. And I've always been enamored by Craig's forthrightness, the points that Nadira made earlier about his ability to speak truth to power, regardless of the costs, sometimes to him personally, I think are so admirable. And that feature endears him to everyone who knows him, because you may not always agree with Craig Murray, but you know that what Craig Murray says is what he believes. That he's not speaking on behalf of someone else. He's speaking on behalf of his own integrity and his own beliefs. And I have had great pleasure walking through the rain with Craig on a number of occasions on various independence demos, standing with him, waiting to go up and speak at independence demos. Some of them had a few hundred and some of them had several thousand, but we always gave everything because that's what Craig did. It didn't matter whether it was 20 or 20,000 that he was speaking to. He gave the same passion and the same commitment because he believes fundamentally in independence. And the truth is, Craig is where he is today primarily because of his belief in independence. Because of his belief in independence led him into the reporting of the Alex Salmond trial. And all Craig did, I mean, let's face it, we all know this. I'm sorry that I'm repeating what we all know. All he did was report exactly what a jury heard. That's all he did. He reported the truth. And for that, he's been put in prison, and it's an absolute damned disgrace. I do want to say just one final wee thing Deepa. Unlike probably most of the participants in today's birthday party, I have also spent time in the same jail that Craig is currently in. I spent time there in 1992. And I guarantee that when Craig emerges, he will emerge stronger. He's got enormous character anyway. He's got a beautiful family and he's got love and support from that family and from friends. So he will emerge stronger. But I guarantee he'll emerge with new friends as well, because that's what happened to me. Some people have a view of prison which is a bit contorted by a lot of the media reporting and some of the dramas that we watch. I can assure you, prison is full of ordinary people, some of whom have made mistakes, others who are victims of economic oppression, but in their heart of hearts, they're decent people. And I'm absolutely confident Craig will emerge with new friends, because he is that type of warm, compassionate individual that I'm sure others will have been attracted to him. And he will say quite clearly in his release that he'll keep in touch with those individuals and they'll be part of his new group of friends across the world. So, Craig, it's just a pleasure to be a friend of yours, to be considered a friend of yours, and it's a pleasure to be invited to your birthday party. And I hope that everyone continues to see your case as a case of injustice. You shouldn't be where you are. It's a disgrace that you've been imprisoned. But more and more of us have to realise that if we don't stand up for people like you, then it will be you today and it will be the rest of us tomorrow. So let's stand up with Craig and wish him happy birthday. I don't drink alcohol, so I've got a wee glass of American cream soda in my hand here, and I'll raise my glass to Craig. Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you, Tommy. I'd now like to go to Emily Murray, Craig's daughter, who'd like to say a few words. Thanks, Emily.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. It really means a lot. It's really nice to see how much solidarity we have sort of worldwide for Dad. Yeah, no, I miss Dad very much. Happy birthday, Dad. I can't wait for you to come back and then for us to eat all the coffee and walnut cake that's possible.
Thank you, Emily. Our next speaker is a Scottish Member of Parliament, Neil Hanvey. I hope you're here. I saw you a second ago. Neil, are you here?
Yeah, sorry, Deepa.
There you are. Perfect. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks very much. And thanks so much for the invitation along today. It's really quite a special moment to share with so many of Craig's nearest and dearest. And a bit like Tommy, I know Craig through the independence movement primarily, but more as an attendee at one of the events in the early days of the independence campaigning. And Craig swiftly became a hot ticket during those days. People really listened very carefully to his words and his thoughtful contribution to the independence referendum. And it was only through that process that his backstory and his bravery and his tenacity and strength of character really shone through as he became better known to the independence movement. And he's a bit of a treasure, really. So it just feels profoundly wrong for Craig to have been singled out in a way in the way that he has been singled out for standing up for justice and decency and the truth. And I think we would all like to have someone like Craig in our corner, and that really shone through for me when in 2019 the SNP decided that they no longer wanted my services as a candidate in the general election. And I don't think I need to rehash that story. But Craig reached out to me, and in a way that not many people did. He reached out to me to first of all to make sure I was okay, and to give me any reassurance or support that he could. And he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to put himself in that position, but he did, and he did so willingly, and he did so with real compassion and great care. And it was something really special for me, because it was somebody who I saw as a shining light in our campaign for independence, expressing humanity in my direction at a difficult time. And we got to know each other through those exchanges, those messages. And we had great plans for Craig to come to Kirkcaldy and speak after I was successfully elected. But then COVID happened, then the salmon trial happened, and then we now find ourselves in the situation we are. So he's on a bit of a promise to me to come to my constituency to speak. And I think it will be an incredibly well-attended event when he eventually does, because there is now so much more for Craig to speak about. However painful this is for all of us, and certainly for Craig's family, it really, I can't imagine the isolation that he must feel in those moments when the noise has died down and he's alone with his thoughts. But I know that he will, or I get a sense that he will use those moments wisely in contemplation about a whole range of things. Because if there's one thing that's clear about Craig, he's a deep thinker. And when we have disagreed, and this has been quite an unusual situation, as many will understand, but during the GRA debate, Craig and I have come at this from different positions, but we've had a constructive conversation about it, which is something that's been completely absent, and we've tested each other's positions in a respectful way. And I think that's just a very small measure of the man, but it's a very clear measure of the man, that he engages with great thought and care in whichever issue he's examining. And I've certainly found his support and assistance invaluable in my time as an MP, and I think it's only right that I stand in solidarity with him for the completely unjust imprisonment that he has suffered. And whilst there have been efforts on my behalf, and with working with Kenny, and also with Alex Salmond and his connections in Westminster, there's a reasonably strong list of us. I don't think any of us believed that the Supreme Court would disallow an appeal in this situation. So it was a real shock, to put it mildly, when his imprisonment went ahead. So, we'll continue to do everything we can, certainly in the Alpha Party, to support Craig and to chap on any door that will secure his early release, because, there have been the recent concerns about his ongoing health issues and respect to the COVID outbreak in Saughton. So we will continue to do everything we can, and I would make an open invitation to anyone present, whether on the panel or listening in, if you have any ideas, or if you've got any contribution that you would like to make, or for actions that we could perhaps support taking forward, then please let me know. We're absolutely at Craig's service. So thanks very much, Deepa, and thanks everyone for coming and allowing me to speak. It's really been very special. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. And just so people know, Craig's not in the room with us today, but we're having a little DVD prepared of the contributions which come online today, as well as from little messages that people have been sending to the Justice Campaign, to Ellen and to others, and as well as some longer interviews we've done with people. So that will all go to Craig on his release, and he'll have a nice surprise gift to look forward to. I'd like to change the order slightly and invite Eva Jolie from across the channel to speak next, please. Eva, over to you.
So thank you, Deepa, for organizing this event. I'm very happy to be here and to contribute to celebrate Craig Murray's 63rd birthday. I don't know him very well, but he has been very important in my life, because we are defending Julian Assange together. And I think that his blog, telling everything about the case in Westminster Court and the judge barrister day after day, made it possible for everybody to follow the case. It was so important for us, and only for this thing that he has done, for all the people that do worry about the fate of Assange, I want to bring a toast for his 63rd birthday. So Craig, we are waiting for you to come out, looking forward for it, and bravo for everything you have done. And I think that your sentence is very shocking. Everything good for you and your family.
Thank you, Eva. That's lovely. I'd next like to invite a friend of Craig's, Annie Machon, to speak next. Annie, are you able to unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
Yes, and thank you very much for inviting me to this event, Deepa. It's a real pleasure, and I just want to say a huge happy birthday to Craig in not the happiest circumstances, but also courage and solidarity to Nadira as well, because having gone through the same sort of thing where you see your partner go to prison on trumped up charges and disproportionate charges, it's very difficult to live through. But they do come out, and you will be stronger, and you will be able to fight back after that. My knowledge of Craig started after the court case, which involved my former partner, David Shayler, way back, I think, in 2004 or early 2005, when Shayler and I were on the Stop the War campaign trail. And I think our paths crossed with Craig at that point. My very first definite memory, though, is when we went up to support him when he was campaigning to take the parliamentary seat of Jack Straw in the general election in 2005 in Blackburn. And I have this weird image in my head, I'm sure it's true, of him. He bought an old army fire truck or something, and he was roaming around, driving around the whole of Blackburn with a megaphone, standing on the top of this fire truck, haranguing the citizens, saying, we've got to get rid of Jack Straw, you know, it's been ballot stuffing, he's corrupt, he's taken us into the Iraq War, you know, let's get rid of him, which is an amazing image to have. But more latterly, of course, my paths have crossed with him because we are both members of a group called the Sam Adams Associates, which started in America and consists of global intelligence, diplomatic, government and military whistleblowers. And we give an award every year to those who display integrity and intelligence. Now, Craig won that in 2006. I became involved with this event, and some of my other colleagues in the event are going to be speaking later, where we gave awards to people like Julian Assange, of course, where we gave awards to people like Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden. And it's the most weird but amazing club in the world to be part of. So our paths have crossed many times over the years, both at the award ceremonies that we've organised and also just supporting and fighting for these sort of issues and these sort of campaigns, most notably, of course, that of WikiLeaks and that of Assange, which is an egregious abuse of justice. And of course, part of that comes from the whole sort of Russophobia and Russiagate issues that cropped up around the election of Donald Trump in 2015 when he became president. And part of that, of course, was stoked by the allegations by the Democratic Party that they had been hacked by the Russians, and that this was proof the Russians were trying to involve themselves in the American democratic process. Craig, of course, was the one who stood up and said, no, it wasn't a hack, it was a leak. And I know that because I was the one who was leaked to. But of course, that's all been lost in the storm of the media and the official narrative that keeps carrying on. What I adore about Craig, because of all this, is the fact that he keeps on fighting. As previously said, he was the one who was up at 5 a.m, going to the Assange hearings, reporting what was actually happening in the court case, despite the fact that most of the mainstream media were being banned. The fact that he keeps fighting, as he did in the Alex Salmond case, trying to report what was not mainly being reported in the mainstream media. He is fearless, and he stands up for what he thinks is the truth, and I salute him for that. And the fact that even though he was only reporting pretty much what was coming out in a lot of the national Scottish media around the Salmond case, He was an independent journalist. He was a blogger. And therefore, he was an easy target to make an exemplary victim of when it came to try and prosecute people for so-called jigsaw identity and so-called contempt of court. That is a despicable misuse of the Scottish judicial process, and it is a despicable misjudgment, and I think as well, in terms of this sentencing, utterly disproportionate. And the Scottish legal system needs to be ashamed and needs to be reformed for what they did to this honourable man. So I just want to finish really by saying it has always been a pleasure to know Craig, to be involved in events where he's speaking or we had dinner together or something like that. He has a wonderfully quick, big brain. He cuts through the crap. He's a wonderfully witty, and I've always enjoyed his company. So I salute him also for his steadfast courage, not only with his own whistleblowing, but for the fact that he has protected subsequent whistleblowers. I salute him for his integrity, for standing up and speaking truth to power. And I salute him for his humanity in supporting so many of us as we've gone through very dark days ourselves. So I actually have a little dram of whiskey here. So I want to say happy birthday, Craig. And once you come out, keep fighting. And at some point, we will share a dram of whiskey together again. Cheers.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Annie, and cheers to Craig. Our next speaker is a very special guest, and it's one of our youngest guests on this birthday celebration. It's Cameron, and I think he's sitting with Nadira right now, so you might have to move the screen a little bit. And I believe, Cameron, you have a little message for your daddy. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to support my dad. It means a lot to us, and it's good that he has lots of supporters and that lots of people are on his side and agree with what he's been doing. So I wrote a poem, actually. I wrote a poem about my dad. And do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Cameron. Let's hear.
My pleasure. The sun shines right on my eyes, and so do yours, reflecting your twinkling image. And across the horizon arises a new dawn, an image so amazing, an image like never before, taking away all woe from my mind, and what lies behind the corridor is a message to never lose hope. And in the near future, which is yet to come, is endless fun with everyone.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Cameron, for sharing that with us, and what a lovely message.
Okay, thank you for listening politely.
It's lovely. Thank you, Cameron. I don't know how anybody can follow that act, but I'm going to move next to Ray McGovern, who's just recovering from surgery and has sent a recorded message. So please bear with me a second while I play that.
Happy birthday, friend Craig. I'm flooded with memories of our associations going back more than 15 years when you won the Sam Adams Award for Integrity and Intelligence, spoke out against torture, and in your acceptance speech made the poignant remark that you were darned if you would let anybody be tortured to provide you with some inch more of feeling of security. That spoke. And we need to speak up now in your behalf and are. But for these purposes, we are wishing you a very, very happy birthday. We hope Nadira is well and your boys. And we're just really eager to see you out doing your thing once again very soon. Best of luck, Ray McGovern.
Thank you. The next person on my list is is Jamie Murray. Jamie, are you here? Are you able to unmute yourself, please? Jamie is Craig's son.
Yes, hello. I think just firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and showing solidarity with Dad and wishing him a happy birthday. It's such a shame that you're not here, Dad. I guess firstly, because you're missing your birthday present. You might not all know, but I always get Dad a really nice bottle of whiskey every birthday. And today I got him a bottle of Kilcoman Loch Gorm. It's very, very delicious. Cheers.
Thank you, Jamie. Were you going to say something else, or have I cut you off?
Yeah, no.
Please go.
I think I should probably say I can't promise there will be any of the bottle left by the time he gets out, but I'll get you a very good one for your release date. I promise.
Thank you, Jamie.
That's lovely. Could I now share a video from, or rather live, Barry White. Barry, are you in the room? Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Brilliant. Could you switch on your camera and unmute yourself so people can see you, please?
Yes, I'm trying to do that, but
sorry,
it doesn't want to come on. It keeps flashing the sign more over it.
Okay. Well, it might just bear with me a second. I'm going to ask you to start video. If you just say yes, and hopefully it'll start now.
Okay. Oh yes, I can suddenly see myself. Well, first of all, may I thank you for the opportunity to wish Craig a happy birthday and express my solidarity to him. I'm Barry White, a former organizer for the Campaign for Press and Broadcasting Freedom, which for nearly 40 years campaigned for a democratic and accountable media. Sadly, it wound up in 2018 for lack of funds. However, its regional partner, Campaign for Press and Broadcasting Freedom North, is still campaigning, and we hold frequent open virtual meetings, produce books and pamphlets, and publish a quarterly magazine, Media North. I'm also a member of the National Union of Journalists. Now, our latest edition includes an article about Craig's case by Tim Gobsall, former editor of the NUJ magazine, The Journalist, and it's called The Way to Two-Tier Media, Jail the Bloggers, Protect the Press. Before coming to that, can I express my appreciation for the important contribution to our right to know Craig made in exposing UK complicity in torture in Uzbekistan. As The Guardian put it at the time, Murray has paid a more direct price for his decision to step out of the bubble of isolation and immunity in which most diplomats live and challenge such abuses. His distinctly undiplomatic assessment of Uzbekistan's human rights record propelled him to a lengthy battle with the Foreign Office. He was subjected to a humiliating disciplinary investigation and his personal life publicly shredded, and suffered a string of health problems as a result. This shredding continues with his recent imprisonment, and it's his implications of the verdict for journalism and journalists that I now wish to refer to. As we know, Craig is the first person to be imprisoned for the offence of jigsaw identification. I agree with the statement made by Reporter Without Frontiers Director of International Campaigns, Rebecca Vincent, who said, whilst journalists must ensure they adhere to court orders with regard to witness protection, Craig Murray's prison sentence on charges related to his blogging is disproportionate and highly concerning. RSF emphasises that journalist activities should not lead to prison sentences anywhere, imprisonment in connection with any journalist activity should only ever be a measure of absolute last resort, if at all. It is certainly not what we would have expected in a country committed to protecting media, freedom, and the safety of journalists. Murray should be released and alternative measures considered in lieu of his prison sentence. Close quotes. All journalists should be concerned with the serious implications of the judgment and the relating statement made by the judge, neither of which can be appealed, namely that independent journalists like Craig must be judged more harshly, with more leeway and legal protection allowed for those in the mainstream commercial media. So the doctrine of equality before the law appears it need not apply. A new and dangerous legal precedent has now been set, and independent journalists are now in the firing line. We must work together to reverse this ruling and the subsequent injustice to Craig. So happy birthday, Craig, and solidarity with you and your family.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, sorry, I hope my videos come on finally. I seem to manage to switch it off every time. May I just request if Alison and Graham are in the room, if they could make them raise their hands so they can be visible to me and I can promote you to panelist. I believe you have some music ready for us, so we'll come to you as soon as I can find you. And also Dave, if you're in the room, if you could let us know. I'd like to now share a little video from Gordon Dangerfield, who's written an excellent blog article, which is available via the Justice Committee website. And Gordon, as many of you will know, has defended those who are the defenders. So I'm going to try and share Gordon's video now. Thank you to Gordon. I'd now like to invite Deb Herbeck, if you're here, if you'd like to go next. Deb is joining us from across the pond. Over to you, Deb.
Hello, everybody, and happy birthday, Craig. I met Craig and Nadira at another birthday party. It was Julian Assange's 45th birthday and we were in the Ecuadorian embassy. It also marked his 5th year incarcerated in a way at the embassy. I do media work for WikiLeaks, and I connected with Nadira as a filmmaker and stayed in touch with her over the years. So when this happened, I was just mortified. Like everyone else, I assumed that he'd get the slap on the wrist at most. As a media lawyer, I'm most horrified at the distinction that was made between Craig's rights as an independent journalist blogger versus the rights of essentially journalists from the corporate media to report on exactly the same facts and in exactly the same way and be treated so differently. This is, similar to what they did with WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks isn't a publication. Julian's not a journalist. This is what they do to undermine the credibility of the truth tellers. And sadly, even the progressive media seem to see that as a way of saying, oh, it's not about press freedom, it's about something else. On a more personal note, I was really touched by Tommy Sheridan's comments about how he anticipated that Craig's opportunity to spend time with other prisoners would help him grow and get even stronger through this experience. And from my own observations, having visited Nadira recently, I noted how impassioned she was about the plight of families who were having to endure separation from their loved ones when they're incarcerated, and how compassionate she is to other women who, in her and families and kids going through what she's going through. And she too, I think, will be stronger through this, as difficult as it is. I think all of us can, the more empathy we have with regular people going through these sorts of things that happen on a daily basis. I'm going to have to sign off because my kettle's about to boil. I thought I was coming on in an hour. So happy birthday, Craig. And love you, Nadira. And thank you, Deepa, for doing this.
Thank you. Good to see you.
May I now invite Catherine Gunn, if she's here? I believe she's she's somewhere on the screen, but I can't see her. So
yes, I'm here.
Brilliant, Catherine, over to you.
Well, I feel really honored to be in this group. And I just want to say that, happy birthday to Craig. I'm really sorry that you're not spending it here with all your loved ones. But I'm sure you'll be happy to be out very soon and back with your family and comrades. So again, I fall into what I call the usual suspects of people like some of you have already spoken, like Annie and Ray McGovern. We tend to sort of seemingly meet every year or so in various gatherings and conferences of whistleblowers and activists. And that's where I met Craig, was at one of these gatherings, I think probably in Berlin. And I really respect Craig and, the stand that he has taken for the past, 20 years or more about all the abuse of power and the corruption in various ways. So I just want to echo what everybody else has said today about his strength of character, his sense of morality and justice. And all the best to you and your family. And hope you have a really great Christmas together and enjoy the rest of your 63rd year. All the best. Thank you very much for inviting me, Deepa. And hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Catherine. And like Annie and others, you really have paid the price for standing up and speaking truth. So I'm sure Craig's very glad to hear your voice here all the way from overseas. I'm going to try and share a recording now, which was made by Mike Barson, who's from the band Madness. And this is a special recording for Craig. I'm hoping that this will work. If please let me know if you can't hear this. Okay, looks like it's not opening. Just bear with me 1 second while, if we may, we'll go to another speaker, and then I'll try and share that again. Hugo, over to you if you're around. There you go. Thank you, Hugh.
Hi, Deepa, and hi to everybody, including lots of old friends who seem to appear on the same list of troublemakers that are appearing before us today. As a long-established troublemaker, I was expelled by Tony Blair when I was a member of the European Parliament for pointing out that Tony was not a socialist, but a Tory. Well, I was just a bit foresighted before everybody else realised that he was a Tory. Now everybody realises he's a Tory. And what Craig has, he's got that perspicacity to know that when things are being pulled in front of you as lies, they should be exposed and the truth should be told. That is the mark of great journalists. He did that, of course, in Uzbekistan, and as my old comrade Barry White from the NUJ said, paid the price for it in the Guardian article. He did that, of course, in the battle for Scottish independence, which is why the SNP refused to endorse him as a candidate. He would have been selected by a dozen constituencies to become their MP or their MSP. I know they all wanted him to stand. I was in headquarters when we were both being considered for endorsement. We were both turned down as potential troublemakers. Clearly they were right. Although Kenny McCaskill, I'm glad to see, who was on the list later, who was then our Minister of Justice, took part in an appeal which actually allowed me to stand. We did notice this rather obscure little man in the office, who we later realised was Peter Murrell, who of course is the power behind the throne of Queen Nicola, and no doubt is one of Craig's sworn enemies at the current time. Craig is a man who is not afraid to speak truth to power, and what he does is extraordinary. He does it in extremely well-informed journalism. So when people like Lady Dorian say, well, he's not a proper journalist, I say, actually, Craig is the best journalist writing in Scotland today. And that's what I said to the president, or the general secretary of the NUJ, when she appeared at our branch meeting in Edinburgh last week. She was talking about solidarity with journalists in Afghanistan. And I praised the NUJ for their work in that, but I said, solidarity doesn't just stop abroad, it begins at home. We have 2 journalists imprisoned in Britain at the present time. We have Julian Assange and Belmarsh. Craig has been, as we've heard, heavily involved in defending Julian. And we have Craig Murray imprisoned in Scotland. Craig has been an NUJ member, wants to be an NUJ member, but certain people in the NUJ, I should say, are attempting to block his membership. We've resubmitted his application and we're going to fight to make sure he is a member. And the truth is, this distinction between bloggers and journalists is a nonsense. Craig is the best journalist in Scotland. He should be there campaigning and fighting for us. Neil Hanvey had a very good point. When Craig comes out, I don't want to take him away from Nadira. He should maybe spend a week or 2 at home, but we should organise the biggest tour of meetings in Scotland for Craig to go around. He will sell out all over the place, I can assure you of that. And when Tommy spoke, I was reminded that Scotland is a small country. The woman who prosecuted Tommy and put him in prison at Saughton, as the same woman who put Craig Murray in Saughton today. Lady Dorian was a young prosecutor for the Crown way back in '92 when Tommy was put in. And there she is. And backing her up was one Lord Turnbull, who put Tommy in prison again on his charges arising out of the News of the World case in the past. Scotland is a small country with a legal system which is in need of major reform. The problem is we don't look as if we're going to get it anytime soon. But Craig is one who's been fighting for that, for truth, power, and we should all be with them. And I've got a final suggestion to make. This year, 2 journalists were given the Nobel Peace Prize. I have a suggestion next year. Let's nominate 3 journalists for the Nobel Peace Prize: Julian Assange, John Pilger, and Craig Murray. Now, that would be a campaign worth fighting for.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hugh. And I'm going to invite Nadira to let Oscar say hello, if he's willing. and then we'll move to the video that I was trying to show earlier.
I want to say hello. Oscar, do you want to say hello? Yeah. Oscar is, we went to see Craig this morning, Oscar and Cameron. That was we organized to see his dad early in the morning on his birthday. We didn't think we would get in, but prison staff was, they were kind enough to let us in, and we were the only family to visit him. So yeah, Dada, did you say Dada? Dada, did I just hear, or did you say?
I think you might have done.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, say hi, say hello, and say bye. Say thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, his eyes are in cat. We had a lovely time with Craig.
Good to hear Craig is holding up okay. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Oscar. And I'm now going to try and reshare the video that I was trying to share earlier. And hopefully one of the other co-hosts might be able to share if I'm not. So here we go. Beg your pardon, sorry. Come on. It's not allowing me to share it. Mike Barson, if you're here and if I can promote you to panelist and you're able to share your video, that would be great. But thank you for that video anyway. We will try and play it sometime through this present discussion. Graham Brown, not Gordon Brown, Graham Brown, are you here yet? I don't know, I hope Gordon Brown's not here. I can't seem to find Graham Brown either. So I'd like to next request on my list. Oh, this person's recording is online, so I'm going to at least try and share that because I know that one works. So it's Kenny McCaskill.
And sadly upon Scottish society, something I never thought would happen. You are, though, being an inspiration to all of us. I was thinking before I came on to say these words when I first heard from you, and actually it was Hugh Andrew, who I knew at Berlin, who once came to me saying how he had read this fantastic book that he was about to publish, how it was revelatory, how it was an extremely brave man, a British diplomat, had written about it. So I have to say, although we've only met a few times, your reputation came long before we first met. I've since read that book, and everything that Hugh said it bears witness in it. But indeed, that's just a reflection of what you've gone on to do, because you have challenged authority. You've been prepared to stand up for what's right. You've had to face difficulties in your own life, but what doesn't destroy you makes you stronger. And I'm sure the Craig Murray that comes out will be even stronger, even better, and will commit to even more greatness for Scotland. We are grateful to what you've contributed. You have shone a light where we've had darkness. You have been prepared to speak out against authority that has been abusing its power. And it's time that others stood with you. So thank you.
Okay. And I'm going to try for a final time to share the music, because this, between speakers, we were supposed to have a bit of music and a bit of fun for Craig's party, and I can't get any of the music to work. So I do apologize. I think the music videos are in a different format to the one on my computer, and it's just not playing like it did before. Is Graham Brown here yet? We'd like some live music, please, Graham and Amanda, if you're here. If not, could I request Robin or somebody to please call Dave to make sure that Graham and Amanda are online, because we can't find them. I'd be very grateful if one of you could do that. I'd next like Dave Henry, if you're here, and Laurie Flynn. Are you both here, Dave and Laurie? Nope. Okay. I'm going to play this other piece of footage which I showed at the start, yet again, just because I'm going to try and make one of the music files work on my computer. So apologies, but I think you've seen this before, but some of you, but hopefully this still works.
Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, she'll take the cup of.
And now hopefully the other file will work. And this has been created specially for this party. No, it doesn't. Could one of the other co-hosts try and share it from their screen? It's in the folder. I'm going to paste the folder again in the chat so that the hosts can see that. And I'd like to now invite Mark Hurst, please, if you're here to speak. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Deepa. Firstly, happy birthday, Craig. I realise this is going to be a birthday that you're obviously not going to forget in any rush, but we can have a proper celebration once you're out. In many ways, I feel kind of responsible for Craig's predicament. I first encountered Craig way back, when at that time I was working for the mainstream media, and Craig did a lot of work on the maritime boundary. The British government introduced a week before devolution, they redrew the maritime boundary off the east coast of Scotland to effectively capture or maximise the number of gas and oil pipelines that they could in the sea there. And obviously Craig's background was able to quite clearly show this went against all international precedent. But I didn't really become friends with Craig until, really until the whole issue of salmon came around. Back in 2018, I met Craig at an independence rally in Edinburgh, and I just finished working with Alex Salmond for two special programs that he'd made for his television show. And although Craig had met Alex many years previously, he was looking to reconnect with him. And so I put the two in contact, and Craig appeared on the show a few weeks later. But obviously, as was the case with myself, we both learned of the extent of the campaign against Alex Salmond, the political campaign against Alex Salmond, which is very much ongoing. As some of you may not be aware, I was actually, my house was searched and by police during a raid, and I was subsequently charged for making a 2-minute video. I am an accredited journalist. I'm a former NUJ official, and I'm currently a member of the Chartered Institute of Journalists as well. And I made a 2-minute video in the wake of the Alex Salmond trial. I was actually cited as a defence witness in the Alex Salmond trial. I was formerly worked with the SNP parliamentary group for 9 years, and I was the former senior elected representative for SNP parliamentary staff, not just at the Scottish Parliament, but also at Westminster and SNP headquarters. So I had some knowledge of some of the issues, or many of the critical issues around what had gone on there. In the end, I wasn't called as a witness, but in the wake of the trial and Alex Salmond's acquittal, I made a short 2-minute video with my own observations, and that resulted in a police raid of my house. All of my technology was seized. 5 detectives entered my house and took that material. A month later, I was formally arrested and charged, and ended up on trial in January this year, in which I was fully acquitted. The court ruling that there was no case to answer, and that no reasonable person could have felt offended by what was said in the video, which was my own observations of the political campaign behind the action against Alex Salmond. Now, the police unit that was responsible for that was the same one that had investigated Alex Salmond, and that same unit, even despite the fact that Alex Salmond was fully acquitted at the High Court, that same unit continued after the trial, and it was involved in the investigation into myself and also into Craig. The day after my search, I spoke at length with Craig on the phone, and together we formed a campaign to fight against what was clearly, and what is clearly, an abuse of power by the Scottish authorities, both the Crown Office and Police Scotland. I'm at the moment suing both Police Scotland and the Crown Office for malicious prosecution. And I'm no doubt that Craig's own lawyers will be looking at that after his release or in due course. And we became friends during that period. Now, as Barry highlighted earlier, much of this effort isn't really about, if they can get an imprisonment as they have done in Craig's case, that's really a bonus. This is about destroying the reputation of those who are seeking to hold a bright light against those who are in power. And certainly I've been a thorn in the side of this SNP administration for a long time, and I think they must have realised early on that there was no reasonable case against me, but it was about destroying my reputation. And on the back of that, I have lost a lot of work, journalistic work. And I took a very different approach to that of Craig. Myself and Craig are very different people. I come from a working class housing scheme in Glenrothes and Fife. I'm pretty sure that had I gone to school with Craig, and let's face it, he would have had to come to my school, I was never going to go to the same school as he went to, that he probably would find it a far more difficult challenge than Saughton Prison, I suspect. I'm not sure, but we are very different people. But what we both have in common, I hope, is our commitment to integrity and to principles. And certainly I would seek to emulate the principle stand that he's taken. As you may have noticed, I'm sitting in a virtual cell. This is Kilmainham Jail in Dublin. This was the cell in which James Connolly, the Edinburgh-born revolutionary, was held before being taken out into the yard behind and executed by the British state. It was actually wounded Connolly, and so they had to tie him to a wicker chair to execute him by British Army firing squad. And the British authorities at the time believed that by executing or killing the revolutionary, they would kill the revolution. That didn't quite happen. And I'm pretty sure that the efforts by the Scottish authorities here in this instance, by seeking to imprison both myself and Craig, was an effort to close us down. And they're going to get the precise opposite response from that. And I'm pretty sure Craig will come out much stronger than when he went in, with a renewed vigour to hold the authorities to account. I've spoken a bit too long now, but what I would say is this is a symptom. What's happening to Craig is a symptom of a very serious and fundamental breakdown and clampdown on freedom of speech and civil liberty in Scotland. And I hope the international community begins to take note, because this has very serious consequences, not just for journalists like myself, but for many ordinary people in Scotland. And nonetheless, this is a birthday celebration. But I do hope that I see you soon, Craig, and we'll certainly catch up. I'll have a pint of Guinness and you can have your Chardonnay, and we can hopefully discuss how we take things forward. All the best for now. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Mark. And I'm glad you explained that that was a virtual background of a prison cell, because I thought your bedroom looked really austere. And I was a little bit taken aback by the background. I'm going to try, for hopefully third time lucky, to share that video. And if it doesn't, Peter Oborn, you're next. Please, you're warned. Okay, it looks like it's showing. So here we go.
Do my best not to make a hash of it. I don't know what it's called, but it's a rather nice little little number. Might be Schubert, might not. Not a lot of people telling the truth these days, it seems. So I'd say in times of deceit, hats off to the honest ambassador. All the best, mate. Have a good birthday.
That was Mike Barson from the band Madness. And poor Mike agreed to play Happy Birthday on the piano. And I don't know why, I was just chatting with him and I said, oh, Craig likes classical music. And Mike understood me saying that I wanted him to play a classical piece, that he's gone well outside Madness's comfort zone and his comfort zone to play that. So thank you, Mike, for your message and your solidarity. We're really grateful.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. Peter Oborn, if you're here, you're next. If you would unmute yourself, please, I can now see you, but I can't hear you.
Ah, there we are. I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me? Well,
Yes,
I've just, this is, let's hope that Craig will be out very soon. It's outrageous he's in there. But we are here to wish him, our old friend, Craig Murray, a very happy birthday. We all miss him terribly. Craig Murray is one of the great truth tellers of our time. He writes like an angel. His heart is always in the right place. 2 or 3 years ago, Craig, me, and Masood Logar, who is also on joining this party, we went up and other friends, we went up the Indus Valley together. We got only as far as Multan. So we want to get up, we want to retake up our journey and progress once more. Craig, you are an inspiration, a hero, a truth teller, a dissident. You were the first to blow the whistle on complicity and torture. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. If Stuart Murray is here, are you able to switch on your camera and unmute yourself, please? Stuart, are you here? Ah, brilliant. Thank you. Stuart is Craig's brother.
Hello. And can I also thank everyone for organising attending this Craig's virtual birthday party. It's been an absolute blast, especially madness. In normal circumstances, Craig would be hosting this event with copious amounts of alcohol, good food, and his unique blend of humour and hospitality. I am Craig's youngest brother, although, well, that's a good start. Although throughout the years, it has often been me who has guided and helped Craig through many of his adventures. Since Craig was young, he has always been a keen activist for many a worthy cause. He has also always believed in fairness and fighting against injustice. This has led him to lose his jobs and suffer much personal hardship. This has recently expressed itself with his coverage of Julian Assange and the Alex Salmond case. It is therefore quite ironic that Craig is now suffering in prison for reporting someone who proved innocent of the crimes he'd been accused of. Regardless of your politics, or you believe Craig is guilty of contempt or not, the injustice is that he has been locked up for 8 months without recourse to appeal. This is the message which should be pushed out to everyone that will listen. I have known Craig all my life, obviously, and I can tell you that he did not intend to publish anything which could help identify any victim. He actually went to lengths to prevent this. He was motivated to report what he believed was a political conspiracy to Phyllis Salmond. Please let's put political affiliation aside, independence or unionist. Let's campaign together for his appeal, so he can present the evidence and be judged fairly. Now let's raise a toast to Craig. Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much for joining us and for that message. And yes, we need to make sure that Craig retains his right to appeal, which so far he has not been granted. I'd like to now move to the other side of the world, to Pakistan, where we have Masood Lohar. Masood, I hope you can hear us. Over to you. I believe you and Peter enjoyed many good times with Craig. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for arranging this virtual birthday party. I was very concerned. My family was very concerned when we heard about his imprisonment, and he sent me a message before he went to the jail, and he said he's going to come back to Pakistan, and there is something which we were supposed to do in the previous days, but couldn't do that because of the corona, because he wanted to see the sword of the killer in Quetta. So he said he's going to come back and we'll go again to see places and to see the sword. The interesting thing about Craig was when Peter and his team came, the Wounded Tigers, to play cricket in Pakistan in 2019. I was their local guide, and something happened, and I just bumped into a very good friendship with this very otherwise difficult guy, Craig Murray. And Peter already gave me a heads up that the gentleman is a little, unique, and you have to be very careful with him and this and that. But somehow we became so good friends that we got drunk together. We sang many songs and all these things. And he told me some very interesting things. His spirituality, his
Masood, may I request you to turn off your video, because we can't quite hear you. If you will turn off your video, at least the sound will be better, hopefully.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Is it good now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So he, I realized that this man is not an ordinary guy. And I told Peter at one moment that because I'm a believer, I told Peter in Larkana before we went to Mohenjo-daro that God loves Craig Murray, and he makes things happen so that he remains happy. And the other interesting thing was when taking some detours, he wanted to go to some places where there were traces of Alexander Burns. So we went up to this desert place where he told me that Alexander Burns actually suggested that the British government should make the largest market for Asia. So when I took him there, he suddenly became the friend of the owners of the shrine, and the shrine people were so happy to have him there that they finally take him to the shrine and to show some very interesting old manuscripts. And also he went.
I'm really sorry, Masood, we can't hear you. Maybe we could bring you back in
inside
later.
the market, right in the, at that time it was go without.
I'm going to, Masood, if you don't mind, we're going to stop you there and then move on to the next speaker, who I've just discovered in the room, who was earlier on in the list. Colleen Rowley, if you're here, could you go next, please? Colleen?
Sure. Okay,
Brilliant.
there I am.
Switching on your camera and we can't see you yet. Perfect.
Hi there. I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to say solidarity with all the truth tellers who go against the groupthink in these terrible authoritarian times. Craig Murray is the unbelievable, sterling example of that. As long as we have somebody like that, or a few people like everybody on this happy birthday party, I think we have a chance. We have a chance to get through these times. If Craig Murray can get out of prison and the rest of everyone can keep getting inspired through reading and everything, we have a chance. So thank you, everybody, and definitely a happy birthday to Craig Murray.
Thanks, Colleen. And we have a recorded message from you as well, which we're glad you could actually make it in person. And thanks for your solidarity with Craig. I'd like to now check if the person who's just entered the room is the musician. I'm afraid I can't see you yet. So if you're the wonderful musician who's here to sing us a song, please unmute yourself and speak. If you're not, then I'm going to try and go to the next speaker, who is Fidel Narvaez. Fidel has recorded a little message in Spanish for Craig, and here it is.
Querido Craig, este mensaje en español para que llegue a todo el mundo hispanoparlante y quienes no te conocen sepan quién es Craig Murray. Quiero decir que me siento muy orgulloso de estar entre tus amigos y muy privilegiado de haberte conocido y del apoyo incondicional que siempre le diste a mi país, a mi embajada, a Julian Assange, en una causa que es universal. Tú eres un denunciante admirable. Sacrificaste tu carrera diplomática por defender principios básicos, humanos, los derechos humanos. Y quienes te conocemos sabemos que eres defensor de muchas causas de denunciantes alrededor del mundo y te admiramos mucho. Lamento que tu cumpleaños tengas que pasarlo en una prisión como precio a tu valentía. pero ya pronto estaremos celebrando juntos en libertad la lucha que nos une.
Thank you to Fidel. And I was asking Fidel when we had the longer interview whether it was normal for diplomats like Craig to speak up. And if you, and hopefully the Craig Murray Justice Committee will share, sorry, I'm just going to mute somebody who's echoing back to me. The Craig Murray Justice Committee will share some of those clips because some of the people who couldn't be here have given, and those who are here have given longer interviews to us, which we will share through the campaign. I'd now like to call upon Catherine Brown. Catherine, if you're here, could you say a few words, please?
Okay, well, I've been inspired by Fidel, so I'm going to say с днем рождения, because I know that Russian is one of your several languages. You're that kind of a diplomat, you do the job properly. I'd first like to say thank you. Thank you for bringing me into a family. I strongly echo Annie Machon's sentiments, which were that essentially I think what she was saying is when bad things happen, good people come together. And that is one of the silver linings of those bad things happening in the first place. I'm privileged and it's a great pleasure to be part of your Justice Committee, which really does behave like a family. All of us try to support Nadira, who has need of a wider family at precisely this moment. But I think we've also been supporting each other bilaterally and multilaterally through all the life things we've been going through during the last few months. And I certainly include myself in that. So it is a wonderful thing to be part of. And it's something that gives one hope, this phenomenon of this a kind of agglutination of people of goodwill that I feel in response to these kind of situations. I'd like to go back to Russia just for a moment. I've been recently researching something about Nikolai Chernyshevsky, and you may not see a huge number of parallels between yourself and Chernyshevsky, but I would just like to point to the fact that he was a young radical in operating in St. Petersburg in the early 1860s. And in 1861, this was just after emancipation of the serfs, there was a whole load of movement for reform, and there were some young firebrands who were actually literally setting fire to St. Petersburg. There were a number of arson attacks. And Chernyshevsky himself, from what we know, was not part of any of them or of any of the groups which actually was committing this violence. So he was wrongly arrested because he was somebody that they wanted to put out of the way. And he was put in the hugely iconic Peter and Paul Fortress in St. Petersburg. He asked for pen and paper on and gave the assurance that he would only write fiction during his time awaiting trial, which took a couple of years. And during that time, he stuck to his promise and he wrote a novel, one of the most important novels of the 19th century in terms of its political influence, and that was called What Is to Be Done. He suffered grievously. He was put through a mock execution. He was then had 7 years hard labor in Siberia and then spent the rest of his life pretty much in exile in Siberia. That was a further 17 years, and he barely wrote anything after that. Nothing that bad is going to happen to you, nor are you currently in the Peter and Paul Fortress. But knowing you, I strongly expect that you are using your time extremely well. Whether writing politically angled fiction or perhaps more likely non-fiction. I'm sure we're going to be seeing the writings that you are making good use of your time to do. The other thing I'd say is that is the title of this novel, What Is to Be Done. As I say, this was a time when lots of things were grievously wrong in Russia, and there was a huge movement for reform, and Chernyshevsky was part of that. But he was a progressive. He had radical ideas, and that was why he was such a huge influence on Lenin, and that was why this book was one of the required novels that was read ad nauseum during the period of the Soviet Union. What I would say about you, Craig, in my understanding of you, is less that you're a progressive than that you're a conservative in the very best sense of the term. I vividly remember you once saying that you hadn't changed your political views over time. You had always seen yourself as kind of not particularly left, kind of moderate in the political spectrum, that you had stayed where you were and the political spectrum had shifted around you, which made you then meant that you were described as somebody far on the left, or as outside the Overton window, which, as we know, has greatly shrunk in our lifetime. And with regard to civil liberties, with regard to freedom of speech, with regard to the range of opinions expressed, especially in the mainstream media, that has gone through this drastic shrinkage, since the 1980s, when kind of the left has fallen away, since the 1990s, the end of the Cold War, since 2000, the beginning of the war on terror. There's been this actual terrifying narrowing of discourse over that time, and all you've done really is stick to your guns and described with great acuity and great fearlessness what it is that's been going on. So if I were to name your collective writings, it would be not so much what is to be done, but what is not to be done, what it is that's going on around us that we really have to say no to. So thank you for giving us that inspiration. You may or may not like the Chernyshevsky analogy, or indeed any of his politics at all. Maybe not as a Russian radical, but in your own way, in this time, you are a radical. And thank you for all that you do. And I look forward to seeing you when you come out. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm just going to warn Robin McAlpine and Ian Orr that I'm going to bring them on in a little while if they're willing, but I'm going to share a little message from Anne Wright, who's pre-recorded her message before I do. And I also want to apologize on behalf of Graham Brown and Amanda, who there appears to be some problem with the timing. Hopefully we will get them on the recording later on, and we'll share it with everybody, because they definitely wanted to send Craig all their love and their best.
We've been together on many, many occasions in both the UK and in the United States. We all admire very, very much what you have written and your speaking over the years. And what has happened that has landed you in the clink is just outrageous. I mean, it just is. We all are just shaking our heads at how these things can occur when someone who's committed no offense, no crime, and through the tortured way that the Scottish government has proceeded with this. I mean, it's worthy of another book for sure. You've got another book right there, a bestseller. Oh man, we'll all buy it. But it's tragically, it's happening not only to you in Scotland, but it's happened here in the United States, where people who have done no criminal actions are being slammed by the government. We have to be ready to really challenge the system, the legal system that has brought you into a prison. It just, it's so stupidly outrageous that, I just shake my head. We all want to wish you the very best under such difficult circumstances of being away from your family and celebrating these very important occasions that normally are family occasions, your birthday. So again, happy birthday. And we look forward next year of being with you in person at some stage in October, so that we can all wish you happy birthday in person. So signing off from Washington, D.C., it's old Anne Wright, and I'm looking forward to meeting you very, very soon in person. And again, happy birthday.
Thank you. And Anne was recording that message from the apartment of Media Benjamin from Code Pink, and Craig, I'm not even drunk. Craig, media sends her love and her solidarity as well. I also have a message from your brother Neil and from Millie, and they say they're thinking of you on your birthday and they think you will soon be home and they're proud of the way you're coping. Over to you next, Robin McAlpine.
Hi. Right, okay. I first became aware of Craig through CND. It was the anti-nuclear movement was the first time that I'd heard of Craig. He was an ambassador who not only knew that nuclear weapons were both pointless and obscene, but he was an ambassador that would actually say that nuclear weapons are useless and obscene. So I kind of knew him before IndieRef through that, but it was really in IndieRef I got to know Craig a bit, and after it I've got to know him a bit better. And I mean, what do you add to what people have already said? When I was a youngster, a young political activist, perhaps one of the defining moments of my early life was in politics was Nelson Mandela coming out of prison. I mean, and I know this seems like such a long time ago and such a strange comparison in some ways, but I just remember thinking as a youngster, comparative youngster, that there are some people who do the right thing irrespective of what it impacts on them. And I remembered that at the time. And I remembered thinking, is that not something admirable to hold up as a mirror to yourself, to you personally, Robin, and say, can I live up to that? Is that the kind of person I would be in those kind of moments? And I've done that my whole life. I've had people like this who I've looked, who did the right thing and paid a price, knowing they were going to pay a price for doing the right thing and did it anyway. And I've always asked myself throughout, am I that good? Am I that good a person? Am I that strong? Am I that brave? And I would obviously never tell you this in person, Craig, because I'm from the west of Scotland and we don't do emotion. Certainly, well, we don't admit it. So I'd never say it to you in person, but Craig, you're one of those people for me. You're a person who I've looked at and I've said, Craig is a person who has repeatedly done the right thing, knowing what was coming to him, knowing what would happen, and did it anyway. And I've often thought to myself, could I live up to that? Would I be that good? Would I be that strong? And I don't know the answer yet, because I've been comparatively lucky that it's never really had been a choice I've never had to make. But you've made it and you've paid the price, and it's utterly appalling. And I think, other than saying that, for those that don't know, Craig also runs a wonderful music festival. Had an absolute cracking year there with the kids the year just before, and met him with a storm approaching, because it's a Scottish music festival, with a storm approaching, discussing Scottish politics over a drink in a muddy field somewhere in Scotland. And I remember thinking that even at the time, I had worries about whether he would see the next one, whether he would be out to see the next one. And he wouldn't have been if it hadn't been, or the one that would have been this year, he wouldn't have been if it hadn't been for it having to be cancelled because of COVID. And it really kind of hit me that is the threshold which it takes to get you put in prison in Scotland. And that's the last point I just want to make, which is, I was also thinking about this a little bit. I had, we did it, for those that don't know, the Craig Murray Justice Committee did a call with Craig the night before he went into the prison. I couldn't be there on the Sunday, but we did the call at 7:00 at night. And it was strange. I've done meetings before and I've done Zoom meetings before, but I've never sat with a person who's going to jail the next day and looked him in the eye. It was incredibly moving. It was really quite disturbing. And I dreamt about jails that night. And I've thought about it quite a bit since. And one of the things that appalls me, you can't see it from here, but over there I've got a poster from the Red Clydeside. It was a reprint of a Red Clydeside poster. And one of the horrors of Scotland is that we don't even know the history of our own dissidents. People in Red Clydeside, the people who fought for the emergent trade union movement at the turn of the century, a remarkable number of them ended up in prison, and a remarkable number of them were broken in prison at the time. And ever since then, I've really started to realise that there's a remarkable incidence of people ending up in a prison in Scotland who just happen to be troublesome for the powerful in this country. And it's starting to bother me quite deeply. So whatever time I've got left, I'm going to try and do my very best to live up to your experience and your tutelage, Craig, in being that kind of brave person who says, this Scotland isn't good enough for me, it's not good enough for you, and it's not good enough for anybody else. And we can't continue to turn a blind eye to this and wait for the mainstream media 10 years later or 15 years later to look back and say, actually, that wasn't good enough, was it? Put that in the filings for we can't let this happen again, while the same thing is happening right now in Scotland. So, I mean, bear up. When you get this, I hope it's cheered you up, because there's been a few nice things said about you today. I'm taking the kids down to Granny's for their tea, so I'll not join you for a drink just now, but I'll maybe have a wee whiskey later on. Wish you all the very best, Craig. You are genuinely an inspiration to me. Don't tell anyone I said that, and I'll see you when you get out.
Thank you, Robin. Ian Orr, are you here, and are you able to unmute yourself and speak? And after Ian, just to warn the next person along, Alexander Mercouris, you're next. Okay, that image seems to be frozen. So I'm just going to go to Alexander, if that's okay. Alex, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Deepa, and thank you for bringing us all together. Well, lots of people have said things about Craig. There's been wonderful journalists here, great journalists, great whistleblowers, intelligence people, worked in the intelligence world, people who've also been, let's say it, people who've spoken truth to power.
Say a few words. Greetings to first.
Hello. Yes. And can I, hello, am I being listened
yes,
to?
you're,
hello?
Sorry, Alex,
Yes,
I think
okay.
somebody else got unmuted by mistake. And
Okay.
Ian, if that's
Okay.
you and your phone is stuck, you're next. But Alex, back to you.
Okay, so lots of people have said wonderful things, and people who are lawyers, people who are whistleblowers, people who are journalists. And I'm just going to add a few things. Firstly, about journalism. I think Craig Murray is one of the greatest journalists in the world today. And I say that without any hesitation. He has brought courage and clarity to his journalism. And I think one of the things that he has brought to his journalism is the eye of a historian. Craig is a historian as well. He's written brilliant books about people like Alexander Burns. And he gives to his journalism that sense that historians have of explaining why things happen, what the inner workings of things are, so that we come away, we understand from his journalism the things that are going on around us. And that will make his journalism something that will last in the future. When people want to go back and understand what happened today, why things happened as they happened, they will read Craig's writings. They will be a source. They will be a mine of information. They will make people understand what took place today in the world. And the other thing that Craig has, and we're talking a lot about law, the fact that Craig is imprisoned because, of course, he spoke the truth about a court case, and how this has caused him great anguish and pain for his family. He also has that tremendous affinity for law. And I say that because law, it seems to me, has always been based on three things. It's based on a quest for truth, a quest for justice, and a belief in liberty. All those three things that Craig has committed himself so passionately to. And if you take away from law truth, justice, and liberty, what you are left with is a cold, remorseless, terrible thing, a thing that is also extremely malleable by those who control law, something that can be twisted and used against people, just as it has been used against Craig today. And not just Craig, because of course this is an extraordinarily cruel thing, but against his family also. And as law, or what is called law, is used against people, dissidents, people in all sorts of countries who are also exposed to its cruelties and its harshness. And Craig would not be the great journalist he is, that person with that affinity for law that I've talked about, that all those things that other people have said, if he was not a person of profound and complete humanity. He has all of those qualities that a wonderful human being needs. He has strength, he has courage, he's utterly fearless. I think it was Annie Matcham who said that he's a tremendous fighter. He has that capacity for kindness, for enjoyment, fun, a love of life, a fullness and a warmth of personality, which of course is what draws people to him. And contrast that, by the way, with all the sort of schemes and calculations and plots and whatever you like to call it of some of the people whose work he so brilliantly exposes. And all I will say, I will finish by saying that, Craig, you have been inspiration to us. You have been a light in a time of darkness, a time of gathering dark, but it is your warmth, your generosity, your humanity, which for all the suffering that you have experienced, or the suffering your family has experienced, gives us all that strength to carry on and that belief that we will win. Thank you, Craig, for all you have done. And I look forward to embracing you again, my friend, and to sharing that glass of whiskey with you when you're with us once more.
Thank you. And I hope that Ian Orr can now unmute himself. I've sent you a request to unmute, Ian, and just to warn Ellen, you're next after that. Thank you. Ian, are you there?
Right. I can't hear you, but
yeah, we can see you.
You can, okay, right. Well, just a very few words. First of all, very happy birthday to Craig, and it will be wonderful when he is able to be back home and celebrating it with all his family and friends. But for the moment, this remote one will have to do, and I will.
Looks like we've lost the signal with Ian. I'm going to try and see if that can be restarted. Okay, there appears to be. Ian, just hang on a second. We can't hear you yet.
Hello?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Please go again.
That bad. But what I want to say was that the values that Craig has shown in his life of truthfulness and respect for human dignity are crucial in 3 areas in which he has been involved. First of all, he's been involved as a diplomat, and having been a fellow member of the Foreign Office with Craig, that's a part of his life that was incredibly important. And one of the things that he did so well was reporting. And that's something that it carried on and was shared in his reporting of the Julian Assange case and then of the Alex Salmond case. But also reporting within the legal constraints. And the thing that is quite extraordinary is that Craig is supposedly, the reason for him being in prison is his having disclosed the names or being responsible for being possible to disclose the names of those who had accused Alex Salmond of various forms of sexual misconduct. And yet that was not what Craig either did or ever intended to do. So the whole concept of jigsaw identification has got no solid basis in law, and that is something which one must hope will eventually come under the scrutiny that very sadly the Supreme Court was unwilling to do. But I think what I would most like people to admire Craig for is the accuracy of his reporting. That was very evident from his time in Uzbekistan, and he did, he came on sort of human rights abuses in Uzbekistan, which couldn't be ignored, and he didn't. He spoke up and he used his own reporting lines in the Foreign Office to make people within the Foreign Office aware of that. Sadly, in the result was that pressure at a political level from the United States on Tony Blair and Jack Straw meant that Craig was removed from his post unjustly, as was recognized. Of the various contributions that I've greatly enjoyed hearing today, Annie's one reminded me, of course, of, because I had known Craig because I was had a posting in Ghana and Craig then succeeded me as Deputy High Commissioner there. But after he had sort of parted from the Foreign Office and left, he, of course, used part of the money that he'd been awarded for the way in which he'd been mistreated to campaign against Jack Straw in the election in Blackburn. And I think those of us who know Craig from them will remember with great fondness the ex-army vehicle that drove up and down the hills of Blackburn, saying, saying to Jack Straw on the track, Jack, don't come back. Sadly, Jack Straw did come back, but Craig is soon going to be back with us, and let's hope that he will be able, from his suffering in prison, to gain greater support for the truth-telling that is the great contribution that he's made to diplomacy and to journalism, and eventually, one would hope, to changes in the law. Happy birthday, Craig.
Thank you very much, Ian. And Ian, of course, you've campaigned with Craig in relation to the Chagos Islands. So Craig, I'm sure, will be very grateful that you've made the time to join us today. I'm now going to request Ellen Dalzell, who is the campaign coordinator for the Craig Murray Justice Campaign, and who's done a huge amount of work in the background, getting Craig's case in front of everybody and making sure that people understand what this case is really about. Ellen, could you tell us a little bit, firstly, a birthday message for Craig, and also a little bit about the campaign to all those people who are listening? This event is being shown just to thank again Consortium News, Action for Assange, and Anonymous Bites Back, who are all live streaming, as are some other groups whom I will mention as we go along. Ellen, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and happy birthday, Craig. In the last week, I have taken receipt of a lot of birthday cards for you, and apparently there is not a single person who wants to send just a normal birthday card to Craig Murray. That just doesn't happen. The very first cards that I read this week had me in tears within a couple of seconds, and that was Cameron's birthday card to his dad. So I have gotten to know you, Craig, actually just through the campaign. But before I go into detail on that, I think I would like to say that even if it wasn't for the campaign, I would have been a sadder person and a less enriched person if I hadn't met you and your family and friends and all the people that have gotten involved in this campaign. It's been an incredible, exhausting, exhilarating, and enraging time that we have spent together so far. And I know that we're on the way to achieve something that means as much to us personally and as much to you as the person affected and currently in prison. But if we don't fight this campaign, you are not going to be the last person imprisoned for executing your job. And this could be about absolutely anybody who dares to post something in the public sphere that could be misconstrued as part of a jigsaw puzzle. And as we know, no jigsaw puzzle has just one piece. It could be identified as part of a jigsaw puzzle that you shouldn't have put out into the public sphere. Frankly, the way that this has gone down is not about Craig Murray. It's not about the Salmond case. As far as I can see, it's about human rights. It's about the freedom of press. It's about a country that in 70 years hasn't thrown anybody in jail that was a journalist and had a media contempt charge against him. And now after 70 years, Scotland is going back into that. That is not the country that I moved to and that I'm proud to be part of, that I'm proud to be campaigning for. And it's not the people that I hope to represent. And that is why it matters that we think of this campaign and think of the time of Craig in prison as a catalyst, but by no means the end of this stretch. We are going to continue to campaign for freedom of press, for the release of journalists from prison, and for proper laws that represent Scotland and the UK, because we can't make a mistake about this. This ruling is a precedent reset for the entirety of the UK. This isn't just about Scotland. It is about the UK as a whole, and the UK in an international context, I'm sure is already under enough pressure to maintain any sort of respect from its peers. But violations against human laws are not the kind of thing that gains you that respect. This is a matter that should not have been rejected to be heard at the Supreme Court in London either. And we are going to take this campaign all the way to the European Court of Human Rights. And let's see how we get there. I'm really pleased that this campaign is coming together. And I am feeling a little bit better for the fact that we were all able to come together, even while you're not here, and enjoy a little tipple and, let you know what this means to us, but also to the wider world. For anybody who has not had the opportunity to speak to Craig or to read letters from him or see him in person in prison, all I can say is that on a personal basis, I am awed that somebody who had so many difficulties thrown at him in life manages to go to prison for 4 months and sits in prison and doesn't have a victim mentality, but is starting to experience and look and connect to the people and the experiences around him in a way that is so typical for Craig Murray. Somebody with integrity doesn't lose it in hard times. That's when integrity shines, and that is what I admire. So happy birthday, Craig. I can't wait to see you out in a couple of weeks, and then we'll celebrate together.
Thank you, Ellen. I'd now like to go across the pond again to Randy Credico. Randy, are you here? And if you are, if you could please unmute yourself. I'm going to try and promote you to panelist again. I think there has been an issue with your connection, so you might have been moved back. So if you can accept that request, Randy, and then hopefully we should be able to see and hear you. Okay. Great. Randy's in the room now. Randy, you'll need to unmute yourself and switch on your camera because we can't quite see you yet.
The mic, there's the video. How's that? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, well, that might be a good thing.
No. Now we can see you. Go for it. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, I was listening the whole time, and it's great. I don't know how I can follow Ellen. I got to hear Ellen speak, and I didn't get to hear anybody else. I heard Hugh Kerr, who I met back 4 years ago at a wonderful shindig we had at Craig and Nadira's apartment, their old flat. One of the greatest nights I've had in my lifetime. But Craig is that's the kind of guy Craig is. Craig he's a raconteur. He's a guy that is just a great conversationalist. He's brilliant. I can't add really everything that Ellen just said is absolutely what I would have tried to say, but I don't have the command of the language like she does. You know, last night we had a event here in Washington, D.C. I'm sitting in the car right now, keeping the phone charged, and he got a standing ovation. I mentioned Craig Murray. We sang happy birthday to Craig. He got, like I said, a standing ovation, a elongated one, because everybody knows the contribution he has made, not to just Julian Assange, but you look at the exposure of, because of Craig, of the torture in Uzbekistan, all of the stuff that he fought for when he was a diplomat in Western Africa. You know, the book, Sikander Burns, what that opened up my eyes to a whole other you know, part of Scottish history. And that Scottish history, and I think about, you know, going to that graveyard nearby that Craig goes and he thinks, that cemetery where I think Walter Scott or I forgot who was buried there, maybe Robert Burns, but Adam Smith. And he showed me around. There was a place where he just fought in there. And I'm thinking about all those great writers, Carlyle maybe. And Craig is part of that heritage, and what they've done, what Lord Dorian has done, is really put a blight on my thoughts about the history of this great country, Scotland, with this great education system before they merged. What was it, Union of Parliaments and all of that? They already had a great education system. Craig is part of that heritage, and it's like representative of it. And Lady Dorian, what a great lady, huh? Has kind of undermined my feelings about Scotland, that this could happen right now at this juncture in history. But as far as Craig goes, on a personal note, I love the guy, absolutely love and adore him. I think he's brilliant. I was there at Balmoral when he would sit through for 8 hours and take these little notes maybe. And then that night he'd go out and have dinner, maybe a glass of ale, get like 2 hours sleep. And then he'd write these 6,000 word, like Nicholas Nickleby sized dispatches and edit them himself and put them out and then show up in the queue at 6 a.m. It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And he was like, Craig has been for Assange what Zola was for Dreyfus, and he's been taken out of that kind of passion, that kind of eloquence and commitment. It's on par or even surpasses it. And so right now on the 27th and 28th, Craig right now would like to be there, and the whole world would like Craig, because nobody give you the feel of the atmosphere of what goes on inside these hearings. The first two that he wrote so brilliantly on, and the one that's coming up. They don't want him there either. They found a reason to stuff him away. I mean, he's being persecuted, this bogus charge, being jigsawed, being stuffed away. We don't have him on the 27th and 28th. And you know what? That is an irreplaceable element to the exposure of what's happening to Julian Assange. All right. And what's happening? So we got two cases going on at the same time, two persecutions. I know he was on my radio show 5 years ago, and he had just gotten out of the hospital. He talked about his illness. He had a blood transfusion. He was sick then. He had heart problems. To put him in this prison is really a scandal. And like I said, I don't know what else to say except for I miss him dearly. You know, he was bedrock of my radio show for the last 5 years. I had him on like 20 times. And he got me Hugh Kerr, like I said, another great thing. I had Hugh on for an hour talking about opera. It was so educational to have Hugh talk about opera. We had the various versions of Va Pensero from Nabucco. And of course, I couldn't stomp him on anything. And it was Craig that said, you should do the radio show. And then the next day he said, you know what, that went better than I thought it would. And then Nadira, the Plav, he talked about Plav and it was almost to the point where it was hilarious in the book Murder at Samarkand, him talking about Plav all the way through. And then when I was there, I licked the bowl. That's how good it was, Nadira. I know I'm just ranting on here because I don't know what else to say except for you're going to have a birthday. You're going to love this. Got a standing ovation. Everybody loves Craig. And we hope to see you real soon, Craig. So stay healthy and, and other cliches, but we'll see you soon. We hope, right?
Thank you very much, Randy. And I know you've been ill and I know you've been traveling. So I'm really grateful that you actually made
Look
it.
where I am. I'm inside of a car. I'm charging the phone. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so
and
much.
Everybody outside. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to cut me out of here now?
Yeah, I'm going to do. I'd just like to quickly invite to say that it was both David Hume and Adam Smith. Mark Hurst has posted that, and so is Ian Munro, who are in that cemetery. And I think we have next a message from John Shipton, Julian Assange's father. And we have only 3 or 4 messages, and then we'll go on to singing happy birthday for Craig. So Elsa, Ian Munro, Donnie Blair, you're on notice, as is Elizabeth Murray, who, if she's here, could speak live. But over now to Donnie online.
Hi, Craig. Donnie Blair here. Sorry, we can't be with you today. We're actually down in London visiting Charlie's elder sisters, but we are thinking of you on your birthday. I've got fond memories of the time you were working in the British Embassy in Warsaw, and I was busy setting up Johnny Walker as a company over there, and the good evenings we had in Ollie's Irish pub, and the many drams that we took of single malts, which I know is a vice of yours and also a vice of mine. I'm particularly interested in the situation that you're in, not only because there's always a natural tendency to do a kind of David and Goliath thing, and unfortunately you happen to be David and Goliath happens to be the Scottish judicial system. For many years now, I've had worries that things were not right as regards the judicial system in Scotland. It seems to be run by a relatively small cabal of Edinburgh-based people who've got very little knowledge of the outside world, and even the world south of Hadrian's Wall. So I do consider your case as perhaps something that is an indicator, a quite clear indicator of what is wrong with the legal system in Scotland. But that's a subject for another day when we can sit down together and have a few drams. That's all I can really think of saying other than formally wishing you a happy birthday. I try to stay in touch with Nadira and Cameron and Oscar, and I think everything's going okay in that direction. And I look forward to having a wonderful evening with you on the day that you're released from the pokey. Best wishes, Craig, and have a happy birthday.
Thank you. And now over to Elsa. And I also neglected to say there's a small contribution again from Emily, just to warn you towards the end. And also, I believe Celia's message has not yet been played. It was a very lovely message from Celia, so I'm really looking forward to playing it. Over to you, Elsa.
Thank you. Craig, we've never met. The story as to why I joined the Craig Murray Justice Committee is a deeply personal one. I first came across you when I was a corporate lawyer dusting down the company's whistleblowing policy. You at the time were whistleblowing, giving evidence in the UK Parliament about US and UK state-sponsored torture in Uzbekistan. You're also responsible, bizarrely enough, for me discovering the identity of my biological father, Ron, a Native American US Navy Marine who came to Scotland with nuclear submarines. His life ended in 2005. And from your journalism, WikiLeaks, and former intelligence and military whistleblowers, some of whom are here today, I pieced together Ron's story, the real story of the Iraq War, of missing weapons, corruption, and many unusual and unexplained deaths, all covered in the book Blood Money, which described the state-sanctioned theft of billions of dollars from Iraq's sovereign wealth fund and rerouted it to the military-industrial complex. A sovereign wealth fund denied Scotland. I know that as my real dad, my adoptive dad, Bill, was a lawyer, a politician, and a former Lord Provost of Glasgow. And he pushed for one in the 1970s. And for his trouble, he was sacked by Margaret Thatcher and as chair of the Scottish Development Agency, and he was also sacked from the Scottish Oil Club, deplatformed and silenced. 'Twas always thus, Craig. As you've pointed out, Scotland's oil money was instead poured into the UK financial services industry to maintain London's position as the money laundering capital of the world. When I followed my father into law, he bought me books on miscarriages of justice. His message was clear: the law can be an ass. And this lesson you beautifully underlined in your journalism of the Julian Assange trial, and again in your journalism of the trial of former First Minister Alex Salmond, and again in the trial of journalist Mark Hurst, and yet again in your own trial. In Scotland, as in other countries around the world, lawfare is being used to silence people, tie up their resources, financially cripple them, and ruin their public reputations. Your honest journalism on the global assault on freedom of speech is why you're in prison. It's why politicians like Neil Hanvey and Kenny McCaskill have on 8 occasions in the past 2 years used their parliamentary privilege to shine a light on Scotland's legal system, highlighting your incarceration for a crime that, if it is a crime at all, was committed by other people. But thanks to you, ordinary people like me know the truth. It's why when you were banned from the press gallery at the Julian Assange trial, people queued through the night, and they did so that they could give their place to you in the public gallery in the morning. It's why people are celebrating outside Saughton Prison today. So today I represent the people you have never met, but whose lives you've nonetheless deeply affected. And on behalf of those people, happy birthday, Craig, and Slán Siva.
That was really touching. Thank you, Elsa.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Beautiful.
Our next speaker is Professor Ian Munro. Ian is a professor at the University of Newcastle and has hosted Craig at Newcastle at a whistleblowers event. Ian, over to you.
Thanks very much, Deepa. Yeah, well, Craig is a fantastic human being, as we all know, and phenomenally intelligent and a highly cultivated man, as well as being a man of great integrity. But I just want to say something very quickly about his generosity of spirit. The day before he went to prison, he gave a speech outside the Scottish Parliament. And that speech, he didn't talk about his own case. He talked in support of other whistleblowers. He talked in support of Daniel Hale. And that's just characteristic of his approach to life, is exactly this: giving voice to other people who don't have a voice, the people initially of Uzbekistan, being, a mass torture that was being undertaken by the regime there, which we were supporting at the time. But obviously his work for WikiLeaks and so much other journalism for Julian Assange and so on, and many other people have been mentioned. But it was this remarkable generosity of spirit, even as he was about to go to prison, to jail, sorry, or to prison, yeah. And other than that, of course, is one of the terrible problems of speaking truth to power. It's not only the retaliation. His whistleblowing prompted 2 parliamentary inquiries, one published in 2009 and one published in 2018. Theresa May basically stamped on, put a foot down for the 2018 inquiry. They couldn't get access to people to give evidence. And so you have people speaking truth to power, but very little happening as a result, unfortunately. And then, of course, even being marginalized and then being subsequently jailed for whatever reason, trumped up charges, as we all know. It's a terrible situation. But yeah, he's an absolutely remarkable man. Everything he puts his mind to, he does exceptionally well. I love the fact that when he publishes a book, his first book, the Nobel Prize winner Harold Pinter says this is a good book. Noam Chomsky, the people who say who talk about his work. It's just even today, the former members of the intelligence community, lawyers, journalists, exceptionally brave and talented people saying this is the great man. And I'm afraid I don't have a whiskey, and I do feel slightly guilty for that. But cheers. Happy birthday, Craig.
Thanks, Ian. I now have 4 Murrays, one after the other. The first is not related to Craig, and that's Elizabeth Murray, who's the American whistleblower. And then just to warn you, Emily, you're next. And then we're going to have Celia and Nadira. Okay. This is Elizabeth. Thanks. Emily, I believe you wanted to add something to what you'd said earlier. Please, you're next. You might need to unmute yourself again. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But thank you everyone who's come along to say something really nice. Like, obviously, I felt very heartened by what people have had to say. And I guess I want to reiterate what a lot of people have said, which is that I don't think this whole situation is about left or right or what you believe. I think that it's incredibly important that we all have the right to say what we feel. And I believe in freedom of speech, absolutely. And I would like to speak as a millennial. I'm in my late 20s, and I know the backlash of people looking at clickbait and things like, when Lady Dorian says Craig Murray relished in revealing the identities of people in this case. And actually, it infuriates me because if you do the slightest amount of research on my dad, you know that he is a human rights activist. He does care about women. He cares about all this stuff. But, I did an MA in media and communication. I did an MA in film and TV. If it wasn't for my dad, actually, I know that I recognize that I'm a very privileged person in this economy because my dad actually landed me a short period of time working with RT, Russia Today, UK. And it really did, what he's given me is a really broad perspective of all of this stuff. And actually, you know what, there is so much polarization in social media and so much Craig Murray relished in this and that. And actually what it could actually take is if people weren't so lazy, they could actually have a look and see it who this person is rather than what they think this person is just from one click or from one quote. And I think it's absolutely fucked up how Facebook markets us, how Twitter markets us, all of this. And it really has made me actually question if I have actually ever done enough research into what I'm looking for, what I'm complaining about.
Thank you for sharing that, Emily. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Celia Murray. Celia is here, but she's pre-recorded her interview, so I'm hoping that Celia and Howard, who is one of Craig's friends from university, who are going to speak next, will be visible now to you. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second.
even last year, I would think that they were completely mad. I really, really, really hope that you're bearing up on your special day and that you're managing to keep your chin up, because I know things can't be that easy to have a birthday on in this way. I was thinking about birthdays from the past the other day, and I was thinking about how good Mum and Nan used to be at doing our birthdays, and about how we always used to have little parties and jelly and party games. And I think that when you get home, you should organise yourself something like that, something nice and light-hearted. It would be lovely. Really, really looking forward to seeing you and to be able to wish you a happy birthday in person. And in the meantime, I really am thinking about you a lot and sending you a lot of love.
Lots of
follow that. Morning, old bean. As you can see, I'm in traditional student dress, full slob mode this morning. I've been up and doing some work and looking at some pictures of Doon from 2018, in which you were making guest appearances, carrying beer around and watching music. So it's odd to turn up now and say good morning and happy birthday. But we will. We're hoping to get up there at the beginning of November and come and visit you in person. So that's the plan. Everything else being equal, and we still think that's a possibility. So we'll try and get you then, and of course once they release you, we'll come and see you as soon as possible after that, again everything else being equal. But again, happy birthday. I hope you're looking forward to actually getting out and getting a decent whiskey, which I might try and bring up when we come up in December, although I think
So thank you to Celia and Howard for that. Howard also told me an excellent story about Craig falling asleep, or rather pretending to fall asleep while they were at university by laying across 4 benches and closing his eyes and saying, "Wake me up when the lecturer says something funny." So Craig's always been a bit of a troublemaker, and I'd like to invite Nadira to... I don't know if the birthday cake, which was supposed to have arrived at your end, has arrived. If we can sing happy birthday together, I'm going to try and allow everybody who's in the audience to join in as well. So I'm going to put it to talk for everybody. So if you would like to, you can.
That's 36.
Huh? Is it 36? Sorry. Good. Although he would have
I'm
said
sure Craig would really be loving this occasion. That is exactly what he wanted us to celebrate, his 36th birthday.
I think I must be dyslexic. I can't see from here. Is it now okay? Oh yes, it's okay now.
You know what? It probably got wrong in the reflection of the camera. It's okay.
It's, let me see. It's 3 is like this, no? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
63.
Okay.
It says
So
63 now.
I'm sleeping. So I'm gonna be on my own, and so we're gonna sing a song. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday,
dear.
Happy
birthday
to
you.
Hooray!
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 And for those
in Ghana, they sing, "How old are you now? How old are you now?" And Dad hated that when we lived in Ghana. He would always be like, 25.
Well, that would good. That's good. 36.
How old are you now? 36.
Yeah. Good old Craig. Well, thank you so much. That was really good, sweet. Deepa, you did a fantastic job, and everyone else. Thank you for organizing all. Ellen, Elsa, everybody. You know, we are so lucky having a committee like you guys, so caring and friendly, and that made you know, children, especially Cameron, is because, you know, he's strong because of you guys and how you talk and what is going on, and me too, you know, with the baby. And it was easy for me to just you know, I've been going through this postpartum and with hormones and things, and so I'm really lucky having all of you and having your support, and it's just, you guys are so wonderful. Thank you so much. So many people, so many supporters behind Craig, and I don't feel lonely. I feel we are all together in this. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. It's very hard for me to say, because what I want is, I want to say more than thank you, but I'm limited with just words thank you. And
we need more words in the English language.
I don't know, maybe I thought it's my English language that I'm not very good. My vocabulary is not very good.
In Eskimo,
we're getting a korma.
Oh, and Paloma. I know exactly what you mean. Don't worry.
Yeah.
The heart is bigger than language.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I've tried to promote everybody who was in the attendee room back to the main room. So you might have received a request from me to be a panelist. I'm going to stop the recording now so that people can, who don't wish to be seen publicly, can come into the main room. And if you would like to speak and say anything about Craig, please feel free to. I beg your pardon?
But it's still recording.
Yeah, we're going to stop recording just now. Thank you.
Stop recording.
Record.